Hello, everybody. We can get started, Coach, if you just want to give a quick opening statement, just how the team's looking for the season, and then we'll open up to questions. Just use the hands raised emoji, and I'll call on you. You should be good. You're good. You should start. Just give like a. Uh,
I just turned it up a little bit, but we're used.
you just give a quick opening statement.
What's up, guys?
What's up?
11 days away from playing at Jacksonville. We got lots of interference. Oh, that's better. 11 days away from playing at Jacksonville. The guys are getting ready. We had open field today. We just finished a 3-game series. We played Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. 3 9-inning games, lined up pitching, competed a lot. I would say every starting pitcher is about 70 pitches right now. Every hitter's had about 25 live at bats leading into the season. So we're getting going here pretty quick.
Ryan, you can go ahead.
Steve, how are you?
Doing great. How are you, Ryan?
I'm good. So let's just start with the health of your team. Anything pop up in the preseason that is worth noting? How's everybody doing so far?
They're doing great. Max Yell had Tommy John this fall, so he was a key contributor last year. Left-handed pitcher that would have had a big role for us this season, but we knew that he'd be out for this season starting in the fall. So he was our key, kind of a major loss for us. Kyle West got hit by a pitch on Saturday in the wrist, but I think he's doing better. He didn't play Sunday and he's out today, but I think he should be fine by the time the season rolls around. But other than that, we're in really good shape, which is one of the healthiest we have been going into a season.
Justin, go ahead.
I think you're muted, Justin.
Sorry, Bob. I'm just figuring this out too. Did you get the snow off the field finally?
The snow is still there, but it's almost all gone. We had some assistants that were shoveling some snow, but the fair territory is completely melted. Snow is out of fair territory. For the first couple of weeks, we had snow piles that were covering a lot of the right field and left field lines, but we've played a ton with or without the snow.
Hey, you were just talking about the injuries and obviously some key ones there with Max and Kyle, but obviously with what the team went through last year, um, is there some sense of relief that you're pretty much going into this year healthy to a certain extent?
Yeah, I forget what it's like to be completely healthy. You
Yeah.
got more options. Last year, I think it was pretty easy on Mays making a lineup because whoever could walk to the field got to be in the lineup. We really are healthy. We have more options. There's guys that are competing for positions and time on the mound. And so we'll make some decisions here in the next week or so what our starting rotation is going to look like and who's going to be starting those first couple games. But I think it's a relief for the most part. Bodies are in great shape and we're healthy. And so we're going to go down to Jacksonville with 40 guys that are healthy and ready to play.
And the training facility, how's that coming along? And have you guys got a better name for that yet?
Yes, the Biomechanics and Performance Center, or the BPC. And that's supposed to be ready to roll by March 1st. I think they're going to give us the keys to that joint on the 17th of this month. And there's some finishing touches with technology that need to take place. So some installation of cameras and force plates, working with some of these specialty vendors to make sure that we're educated on the software.
So guys obviously will get a chance to take advantage of it this year. And what benefits will that have?
Probably not a ton when it comes to the biomechanic piece or the human performance piece. That's usually kind of a longer process of development. You got to make sure you collect the data, then understand the data, and then make that data actionable. So actually being able to speak to 18 to 22-year-olds about how to make some adjustments with that. So in the season, when that gets here, it's more about playing, competing. But when it's raining and snowing, to have a facility that you're covered and actually be able to work, have our guys be able to train in there. It happens quite a lot where we'll be preparing for a game and it's raining or it's snowing or it's tough weather. And so just having a warm indoor space to be able to prepare for a game or to practice at night is very beneficial. So we'll see the benefits of it right away, but we probably won't put all of that technology to use fully until the fall of next year.
Thank you, Coach.
Kevin, go ahead.
Hey, Steve, how's it going?
How you doing, Kevin?
Not bad at all. Questions about your transfers. Last 2 years, this program has really done well with transfers, both starters in the field and pitchers. So, of your transfers coming in this year, who do you see competing for spots, either one of those places or relief pitchers? Do you see that continuing in 25?
I do. We have some really special transfers on the mound that I'm really excited about. Griffin Kern, he's a left-handed pitcher from Quincy, Illinois. He's a senior this year. And I think if you look up the numbers, Griffin has more innings pitched than maybe 80 or 90% of our team combined. I think he has over 220 college innings under his belt. So just extremely mature, experienced left-handed strike thrower. And in college, if you can put old guys on the mound that handle their heartbeat and throw strikes, you got a chance. So really excited about him. Derek Clark was similar to that mold. He was a left-handed bulldog that threw strikes with a lot of experience. And they both pitched in the Cape Cod League before coming here. And that's what Griffin Kern did as well. So I'm excited about him. There's a right-handed relief pitcher named Reese Bassinger that played for Tarleton, which is a Division I in Texas. This is his senior year as well. He's just one of those rubber-armed, lower slot right-handed pitchers. And if you look at Tarleton last year, they won the WAC championship through that tournament. And Reese Bassinger pitched in 5 consecutive games on 5 consecutive days to win that tournament. So you just don't see that ever, especially in a Power 4 conference. And so he's one of those kind of old school throwback gritty guys that wants the ball every day and doesn't know, to talk about his shoulder being sore or his elbow hurting. He really loves to pitch. So I'm excited about him. There's a boy named Jack Kartsonis who we took a risk on. He was an injured player when we signed him, but he was Kent State's Friday night starter and got hurt a little bit and became a reliever, but really gutted through pain and injury in his final year at Kent State. He had surgery this summer, and so we signed a player that maybe some question marks on health, but he's came back healthy, and hopefully our bet pays off because he's just a great worker, great kid. He's a senior as well. So we lost 75% of our innings last year to the draft. And so we replaced that with some transfer portal, more experienced, older pitchers.
And I'm guessing you're not ready to name, your weekend starters, anything like that yet, but about how many players will be competing for that as you start the season to get into those regular roles?
Yeah, I think we probably started with maybe 10. My theory is always when you start this fall, you need to legitimately think that you have 8 starting pitcher candidates, not freshmen with good arms, but 8 guys that you think could start for you on a regular basis, because you end up needing 4 per week if you play 3-game sets in a midweek. And so right now, I think that's been whittled down probably to 6 or 7 legitimate starting candidates for us. And so like where we're at, some of those freshmen that you don't bank on early when you do, when you're recruiting, those guys oftentimes come on late. When I think of a guy, from years ago, like a Ryan Bergert, who we didn't see his best baseball until the Big 12 tournament freshman year. We have some of those guys in the wings that I think can develop into that. But right now we're probably at 6 or 7 players that would be legitimate options for this opening weekend to start games on the mound.
Mike, go ahead.
Hey, Coach, how you doing? I am good. I just have a couple for you. I know you talked about this at your intro presser, but you're getting some national recognition now. You're on some lists, some top 25s, things like that. It's a little different than when your predecessor took over, where he was kind of building up Is this something at all that you address with the team on the expectations and trying to follow up last year? And do you feel any pressure of that? And then my second question, is there anything just in general, I know you maybe don't want to give away too much to opponents, that Mountaineer fans can expect from you that maybe would be different than Coach Mazey? Hall of Fame coach, obviously you were on the staff, but you're a different man. You're going to do it your own way, I'd imagine. Any differences in your style or technique or moves that you may make that you kind of can tip off the fans?
Yeah, I think to answer your first question, definitely have some expectations. That's awesome. We talk about it at our team all the time. Just expectations, outside noise, external opinions, all those things are reality. I think some of those polls and the rankings are flattering. It means that the program's doing well. Nowadays, it's kind of like Arizona State winning the conference in football. Pretty much nobody knows if we're good or not. We replaced half our team from last year with transfer portals and incoming players. So over 50% of our roster is new guys. And so it's just a massively different team. We have a lot to prove. But in general, I think it's flattering because coaches in the league are saying the program's been trending in the right direction for years. We like their coaches. We like their players. We like their style of play. We think they have the resources necessary to be competitive. So those things are nice with the publications. In our program, we call it poison just because you got to be careful of what you ingest. If you fall in love with yourself, you get your ass kicked. If you look ahead, you get your ass kicked. If you get too worked up in what other people think, you end up getting your ass kicked. So just trying to stay the course, stay focused, get better. All those things that we talk about in our program all the time are the most important things. So as far as pressure, not so much. I think in the presser, I was asked that question just about the expectations. And I've been here now. This is my 10th year. So more proud. You create those expectations by winning and putting, a quality product on the field. So if you can continue to do that, expectations will rise. And so those expectations are really a privilege for us. We're very lucky that people think that we can build competitive rosters here and play high quality baseball. So differences between meeting Coach Mays, probably the fact that I'll do a little bit less on the field. Coach Mays, he grew up in an era where he had done so much. He'd been a pitching coach at a high level. He'd been a hitting coach at a high level. He'd been an outfield coach at a high level. He was a two-way player in college. He was a pitcher in professional baseball. He had done everything on the field. And so when he got here, coaching staffs were smaller. He really relied on his own experience and skills a ton because Coach Mays, he called pitches, ran the offense. He made bullpen decisions. He really ran the game. And so this year, probably the biggest difference is that Coach Oni will call pitches. Coach Riley will help with some decisions before the game as far as who's available and who's going to pitch. I'll run the offense. Coach Rasinger will position the infielders. Coach Hefner is going to help with some preparation of outfield stuff. Coach Garcia will do the scouting reports. So just a little bit more diverse when it comes to the coaching aspect of it, relying on some more people inside the organization. So I think that will be a little bit of a different style of play or pitch call just because there's more variation in the people that have an impact on the game.
John, you go ahead.
Yeah, kind of along the lines of what Mike was asking. Obviously the Super Regional last year was the first time in school history, so that was something new. Well, now you got to follow that, which is the first time in school history that somebody's had to follow a Super Regional. Have you thought about that at all, and what that means for you as a coach and this is a program?
I think it's momentum. That's the name of our game. It's about recruiting momentum. It's about season momentum. It's about getting the right coaches in place, the right players in place. And so when I first got here, you were scrapping for momentum. I remember talking about the fact that we played in a Big 12 championship game of the tournament. And that's what I was selling on the phone. Hey, we got to the Big 12 tournament championship game. We didn't win it, but we got there, right? And we got a new stadium going, and we're going to build a weight room, and you're going to have some cages. And we were talking about this indoor 10 years ago that we built, and we got a meal room coming. And Alec Manoa, who's a top 100 player, he chose West Virginia. And so it's all momentum. And so I think that super regional is something that you grab onto and you sell, and you try to continue that momentum, and you keep getting better from that momentum. And you try to do some more stuff that had never been done in program history. I don't think we'd ever had a top 25 recruiting class. We hadn't been to a regional in 21 years. We hadn't hosted a regional since the 1950s. We hadn't been to 2 regionals in back-to-back years since the 1950s. So kind of one thing after another, and you're looking for that next thing that allows you to sell the program and continue that momentum. And the truth is, I wouldn't tell a 16-year-old recruit this, but the truth is, on the scheme or on the scale of nationally with baseball programs, we haven't accomplished a lot. We hadn't been to Omaha. We hadn't hosted a super regional. We hadn't done a lot of things. So I think that's what I always tell recruits and our staff. Like, last year was the best season in program history, 133-year history, which is incredible to be part of. Wow. Is that sustainable? Can we do that again? We don't know. We're going to find out, but you're always striving to do more. What's the next step here? So there's so much left to be done if you're looking at the big picture. So I think that's what I focus on. It's just, there's so much more that can be done. So let's go try to do it.
One more here. Best piece of advice. What was the best advice you got for taking over a program, managing a team, running in game, the whole deal?
I used to always joke with Mays because I was a type A personality, and Mays was pretty laid back and didn't sweat the small stuff too much. And I'm a little bit more of the organizer and the planner kind of stuff. And I'd pull my hair out, and he would always say, never make a decision until you have to. And I think about that quite a bit, just because there are so many decisions in this seat, and you want to let some things unfold, as far as whether that's naming starters, picking staff members, locations, travel, bus, meals, whatever it is, running the game. Kind of got to let some things unfold to get as much information as you can to make quality decisions. And so I think the best piece of advice is probably slow down on some decision making and make sure you read the situation accurately.
Connor, go ahead.
Hey, Coach. Just wanted to ask you one quick question here. It's about Grant Hussey. You know, him being a West Virginia kid. Now he's got his name in the record books here. How important is it to have guys like Hussey on the team?
It's critical. He's been so awesome. I recruited a guy when he was 15 years old. So I've known Grant Hussey for a really, really long time. And to get to see his development over the course of the last 6 or 7 years is awesome. He was a superstar with a lot of raw power. When he was a 15-year-old, he played for the Black Bears as a high school kid. So he was one of the first high schoolers to play in the Summer Collegiate League. Came up here, struck out a bunch, got it shoved on him quite a bit, hit a couple homers, and then has just continued to develop. And like I said, the maturity's been incredible. Watching him become who he is today, I feel confident he'll have his best year of his career here, because he's just very clear-headed right now. He knows why he's here. He's really proud to represent the state. He's proud to be at West Virginia and to be a Mountaineer. So having guys like that put the program first is critical.
Wesley, go ahead.
Hey, Coach, you talked about some of the transfer pitchers, but what about the returning guys? Some of these guys that you would like to see develop. How was their offseason, and who are some names that you look to probably get some key contribution from this spring?
Yeah, we have some stars on the position player side and the pitching side, but Logan Sauve is flat out rock star. He's a preseason all Big 12 player. Speaking of Logan Sauve, he's coming in the door right now. Sam White has been excellent for us. He's a grinder and a winner, and he's going to be playing a lot of second base for us this year. Skylar King is a returner who played center field for us in the Super Regional, who's done an incredible job. Brody Kresser was at second base alongside JJ Weatherholt, and we've slid him over to shortstop. He's ready to make that jump. Obviously, you had mentioned Grant Hussey. We have some arms that have made big strides that we have very high hopes for in Gavin Van Kempen and Carson Estridge, who was instrumental to last year's run. And Robbie Porco is a name that has had some injuries and in and out of some lineups for us over the years. This is his junior year, but he's as projectable and as big of a draft prospect as just about anybody on our team. And so I think there's some names that have been in this program for a while that are ready to have their best years. And so those are the main ones that I would focus on today. Obviously, Kyle West. I could go on. We have 7 of 9 returning position players, so we're very excited about those guys.
Ryan, we'll go back to you.
So, Steve, you kind of just mentioned there moving Sam White to second, moving Brody over to shortstop. Obviously, you know that Logan's going to be at center field or catcher, excuse me. I'm assuming Ben is going to be out in right field. You know, Grant's at first. Do you fill in the other position player gaps where you think some of those other guys might be lining up, like third and some of those other positions?
Yeah, it's been a dogfight. We have really competitive position players. And even some of those returning players, they know that there's some transfer portal players as well as some returners that have made huge jumps. And so there's legitimately going to be 13 or 14 position players that get opportunities in non-conference to earn jobs and earn innings. And we're gonna have a lot of fun this year because we have some players that have carved out some roles that may be the best defender, or maybe the best base stealer, or maybe the best right-handed power option, or might be the best left-handed bunter. And so we're going to have to manage the game because we have some talented position players that can bring something to the table that maybe not all their peers can. And so we're going to be able to mix and match and set some lineups based on opposing starting pitching to try to beat who's on the mound that particular day. And eventually the lineup usually settles. But I've just been really impressed with returning players like Spencer Barnett, Armani Guzman, Ellis Garcia, Alex Merritt, Chase Swain is a transfer from Manhattan. Gavin Kelly is a freshman that came in here that's been very, very good. George Valdez is a freshman Canadian center fielder. But a lot of these players bring something to the table that they're the best at on the team. So I look forward to managing the game to try to utilize their tools. So I think, that's kind of a long-winded answer. I'm good at that, but I like the position player group. I think it's the most dynamic group that we've had in a few years here.
So
right, we'll
I
get
also
to
wanted to
these
ask you
actual.
too. Sorry, I
Go ahead.
also wanted to ask you too about Ben McDougal, transfer pitcher. He's got local connections from Bridgeport. If you just speak to him about what he might be able to bring his role possibly.
Yep, he's a left-handed pitcher. We don't have very many of those on the team. He's a strike thrower, mountaineer through and through, and he's been having really good outings. So right now he fits a little bit more in a long relief kind of role because he throws strikes. He's trying to work quickly. He pitches to contact. He was at Pot State last year and has came here and made some strides developmentally just because of the resources we have and what type of character that kid is. He's a really good worker, and I look forward to seeing him on the mound as well.
All right, we'll get to these last 3 questions with your hands raised. Kevin, we'll go back to you.
Coach, last year your lineup went from a hitting lineup, went a little bit more toward the power side of the equation. I know that wasn't necessarily a goal, it's just met the needs of what your lineup was. That continue more this year? Did you consciously try to add a little bit more speed to balance back? Or I know you kind of joked earlier that you're kind of a Bash Brothers lineup again. So how is that shaken out early on?
I think it's a big group of returners that have developed, and usually power evolves later in careers. even into pro baseball, a lot of times there's players that don't have or don't show a lot of power in college that find that later in their careers. So you'd normally see power with experience. So I would imagine not a large power drop off in our roster. And we did add some players with some thump. Jace Reinhardt's a transfer from USC Upstate that had 18 home runs last year at his Division I school. And Chase Swain was nearly a 400 hitter. And then some of the players that we talked about working at third base, they've improved their power. So I think maybe similar would be the right answer with a little bit more athleticism. If you can get an Armani Guzman in the lineup, who's ultra athletic. Gavin Kelly is a freshman that can really run and is very athletic. And so maybe a blend, but trending towards a hair more athletic.
Justin, we'll go to you.
Coach, I got a question about Logan, and obviously last year or the last couple of years, obviously, JJ developed into this superstar persona on the field, off the field, elevated the program with his play. Logan now has to kind of follow him, and not to compare the two, but I mean, do you see any kind of that stardom kind of play in Logan? And what's it going to be like for him being, the guy the year after the guy, so to speak?
Yeah, he's definitely his own man and extremely special and talented. I think Logan's personality is probably a little bit more understated than JJ. He also is a catcher, so he's of that service leadership kind of mentality. He says less and does more. And then you look up after knowing him for a month and you're like, that might be the most consistent worker and person that's on this team. So it's just that day in and day out. He doesn't want the limelight. He doesn't look for attention. And I think that's probably what part of the reason why he's so good is because he's literally trying to highlight the pitcher for that day. He's trying to make the pitcher have their best day of their career on the mound every time. So it's just that selfless, humble, rock solid mountaineer attitude. Sam White has a little bit more personality when it comes to like flavor and flair, and he's a leader and a great player. He probably aligns closer to like a JJ personality.
Yeah.
JJ and Sam were the guys that were doing gorilla noises and beating their chest in the
Right.
regional, right? So Logan is probably like an understated superstar. If you think like Adley Rutschman, that you're like, that's just the best player on the team. If you think Mike Trout, that kind of player where I don't know if he sells the most shoes on the team,
Sure.
but he's just the best guy on the team.
If he, if obviously with Logan being a catcher, I know a lot of baseball strategists, if he's your best hitter, then maybe try to get him somewhere else where there's less wear and tear being a catcher. Your thoughts on that? Because obviously he's got a pretty good stick with him. I mean,
Yeah, I think that's definitely something that we need to consider. And he got hit in the knee with a fastball at Western Kentucky last year and broke his kneecap, and then came back as soon as possible and basically caught every day he possibly can.
Yeah.
We were lucky. So Sam White has caught for us really well, and Gavin Kelly. Both those players are high-end players, and they can both catch. So that's going to give us the possibility for maybe once a week to get Logan off his feet. If I did it more than that, Logan would probably fire me. But I think it's important to make sure that we keep that guy healthy throughout the year, make sure his legs are fresh, and make sure that his bat plays.
Thank you, Coach.
And Wesley, we'll go to you for the final question for Coach Sabins.
Yeah, so going back to your experience that you bring back in your lineup, how important is it not only the experience, but the big time at bats per se, in terms of getting a lot of these guys experience in the super regional as well as the regional, and how that can kind of help when you get into big moments this year?
It's a great question, and it's huge. I think the heart rate is probably the most important thing when we're talking about young guys in the season. Usually by the end of the season, they're adjusted, but these aren't professional players yet. And whoever can handle their emotions consistently win. And that's part of the reason Logan is such a star. It's just there's no peaks and valleys, there's no heart rate. And so those at bats and those big moments sometimes can make other moments not feel like a big deal, because if you've had an at bat with the season on the line, with your head coach's career on the line in the biggest games in program history, in the best season in program history, sometimes the bases loaded at bat doesn't feel like quite as big of a deal. And baseball, if you can relax and let your skills take over, you have a good chance of being successful.
All right. Thank you. We'll conclude with Coach. We'll have Logan on here in a couple minutes.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Has any questions for Logan? We can get started. Ryan, you can go ahead.
Logan, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. So, obviously, you're coming into the season with a lot of hype, not only surrounding you, but this team as a whole. For you specifically, for you personally, what was the thing in the offseason you focused on the most to get you ready for this year?
Yeah, I think every offseason I think I just try to improve on all my skills, and I think that will help me become the best player that I can become. Like Coach Sabins was saying earlier, the big focus for me is make sure I'm best friends with every guy on the pitching staff. That's our goal here, make sure they have the best day that they can. And I think if that happens, I think we end up in good shape.
Wesley, go ahead.
Hey Logan, so you sort of tested the draft waters this past offseason. What was that process like? And then ultimately, what led to your decision to take your name out of the draft and return to West Virginia?
Yeah, it was good to go through. Fortunate that I have a couple more years left in college that I was able to take my name out of the draft, but it can be stressful at times. I think a big part of last season was trying to put it behind me and not worry about as much and focus on the team and whatever I can do to help the team win, because at the end of the day, that's when we have the most fun. And obviously winning the regional last year was pretty fun. But yeah, like I said, just trying not to think about it too much, but at the same time learned a lot throughout it and made the best choice of my life coming back to school here.
Justin, go ahead.
Logan, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good. Would you really fire Coach Sabins if he didn't let you catch every day?
No, I wouldn't do that.
Can you just kind of obviously last year, I mean, the way it ended is all-time program high and but also it was kind of, going through the injury and there was some adversity for you last year. What did you learn from that? What was that like? Just kind of take us through the ups and downs that you went through last year.
Yeah, what a season, like you said. Definitely something that we'll never forget and something we'll always remember. But, going down the third week of the season, fracturing my kneecap obviously wasn't what I planned to do. So JJ being hurt, I kind of went right next to him and tried to pick up ways that he led and, take points for him because Jay's obviously is the man. And, I learned a lot being next to JJ every day, and he and I kind of, and the other guys that were hurt, just did our best to keep the guys going and help them winning. And then hopefully when we came back, we were ready to go again.
Do you think when you look at last year's team and this year's team, do you think this year's team could be better and why?
Yeah, I think we could. I think, returning 7 of the 9 guys of the starters is a big thing. And, a lot of young talent on this team. We're super deep. Coach Saves has been telling us all fall and all spring that this is one of the deepest offenses that we've had. But super good pitching staff as well. A lot of returners there. Couple guys coming in. So really excited for this year.
Thank you, Logan.
Yep.
Mike, we'll go to you.
Hey, Logan. You mentioned JJ, and we talked with Coach about following last year and the pressure and the preseason expectations, things like that. What's your mindset when you see you guys brought up nationally or in rankings, things like that? And then Do you feel any pressure to follow JJ and follow last year? Because fair or not, and your different positions and different personalities, if this season doesn't go well, you're going to be the face of this season going poorly, fair or not.
Yeah, it's a good question. I think it's cool to see guys get recognized. Obviously, we work super hard day in and day out, and that's our goal at the end of the day is to get recognized in those. But at the end of the day, I think you put your team goals ahead of individual goals, and I think if you achieve the team goal, I think your individual goals will come. So definitely cool to get those awards, and you can focus on them for a quick second, but then you kind of just got to put them behind you and move on to the next day and do what we can to help the team win.
Greg, we'll go to you.
Yeah, Logan, last year the transfers were a big part of the team's success and fit in well. Do you draw back on any of that with this being an entirely new group of transfers? But obviously, there's a lot of them that you're going to be incorporating that I'm sure will be filling some pretty big roles for this team.
Yeah, it's with the transfer portal nowadays, there's guys moving in and out of programs every year, and I think that's the cool part about baseball is you're always meeting new guys and the teams that can bring those guys in and bring them a part of the culture as quick as they can. Those are the programs that do the best, and I think we have a really good group that came in this year, and we all get along pretty well, and we got along quickly. So I think that's the most important part is how quickly can we become best friends, because if we're not getting along out on the field, stuff's not always going to go the best.
Kevin, go ahead.
Kind of going off that, Logan, we got a Derek Clark comparison on Griffin Kern from Steve. What's your thoughts on that, and what's it been like catching him?
Yeah, I said that to our pitching coach within the first couple weeks here. A lot of similarities there. Derek's mentality is what's going to put him above other people. That bulldog mentality that he's never going to want to come out of the game, and I see that a lot in Griffin. So I think Griffin just keeps touching up and getting better every week, and hopefully he has a good season.
Ryan, we'll go back to you.
So, Logan, maybe Griffin is an answer to this question, but among the returning pitchers, give me the pitcher who you've seen take the biggest stride this offseason and tell us what he's doing well. And then tell us, too, the transfer pitcher that you've been really impressed by since he got on campus, I'm assuming in the fall.
Yeah, for the returner, I think Robbie Porco has had an awesome fall, made a lot of big strides. He's going to be a big guy for us this spring. Obviously, runs his fastball up there pretty good, upper 90s, and I think this fall he just got way better at commanding his fastball, and then being able to pitch off of that with command of his off-speed pitches has really put him in a good spot. And then transfer guys, Ben McDougal, I really like. Super calm kid, really hard worker. Kind of throws every pitches for strikes, so being able to use him a couple times on the weekend, I think will be pretty big for us.
Justin, we'll go back to you.
Look, I'm just kind of wondering, offensively, how are you a better player this year? What did you focus on in the off season? Is it more pop? Is it just better contact? What do you think from last year to this year for you?
Yeah, big thing this fall I focused on was my chase rate. Seeing myself in a lot better counts this fall, giving me better pitches to hit early in the count. I think that was a big thing for me this fall, is kind of lowering those strikeout numbers and staying at 2 strike counts. And it's been good. Still a work in progress, always trying to get better in that, but I've seen myself in a lot more hitters counts this fall, and it's been good.
Ryan.
So, Logan, I believe I'm right when I say this. It was basically this time last year we asked JJ who's that position player who's kind of taken the next step, and you were the answer. So now let's ask you that question. Who on this team, position player-wise, has kind of taken that next step and can really fill the role that in some of that production that was that went away in the offseason?
Yeah, I think it's hard to single out one individual. There's a lot of guys this fall that have made gigantic strides. A couple of them that come to name is Spencer Barnett, Ellis Garcia, and Armani Guzman have been tearing it up lately, and it's cool to see how hard they work and their success is paying off.
anybody else has any questions, you can jump in. Not, then thanks everyone for joining us.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.